Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Talia Tomarchio, and today we have Kim Davis from ASRC Federal talking about Agile.
Hello.
Kim, do you want to talk about your background?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for the introduction. I'm Kim Davis. I am currently the Senior Director of Software Applications and Analytics for our corporate enterprise. So I support all of our programs across the country. My background varies. I have a degree in computer science. I have a master's in business. I have a slew of credentials from Agile certification agencies such as Scaled Agile, Scrum Alliance, and so forth. Even going into some more business agility type of certifications. But so my positions have started from software developer to program manager to Agile change agent for the Department of Defense, and specifically Aegis weapon system contract that we have here in New Jersey, and then to incorporating Agile practices for our enterprise, and now running our software applications and analytics center of excellence as the senior director.
That's a lot.
And by the way, I also have built our partnership with Rowan University in the last couple of years too, so which has been awesome.
That's actually how I met you, and I'm very grateful that I met you because I feel like you have a lot to teach everyone and guide and learn from you.
Thank you.
So I guess the first question we could start off is, what is Agile?
Yeah, sure. So Agile is really just a set of practices and principles, and the principles are really the guiding foundation for how we do things. If there's ever any question about, what should I do in this situation? Well, what are the guiding principles telling us to do, and how can we be Agile without breaking Agile? So the software industry has really capitalized on what those principles are, really creating this Agile movement in general back in the early 2000s. And what the goals were was to find a better way to be able to be responsive and dynamic, more collaborative, more transparent, to support how we deliver software. Waiting months and months on end to deliver a product, especially in the age of digital disruption, was just not keeping pace with change and keeping pace with user needs. And when you think about industries like the government where we have mission critical systems, we need to get capability out the door faster. So agility, those principles and the frameworks that came about as a result of those principles really enable us to do that as industry, as commercial, and as government.
So a lot of companies are moving towards the Agile movement, and it's becoming more and more popular, and it's something for everyone to be familiar with, right?
Absolutely, yes. It's definitely the way of the future. And the great thing about Agile, especially some of the agencies or I'll say partners that have created some of these frameworks, like I'll use Scaled Agile Framework as an example, they're always evolving their practices too to make sure that they are keeping pace with industry needs.
So it's important for students and young professionals to know and be familiar with this. And if they go into an interview and they say, "Are you familiar with Agile?" you can be like, "I learned from Kim Davis."
Learning is always, it's one of the continuous improvement. I think those are important principles, but they're also things that you can, as individuals, leverage for yourselves.
So why do you think that Agile is better than some of the things that were in the past?
Sure. Well, obviously Waterfall is the biggest comparison to Agile. And, when I first started developing, it was Waterfall. And we would, design everything up front. We would then go off and code for a while. Then we would spend a lot of time testing. And in the end, you might find that a lot of things were broken.
Yeah.
Right? And so then you'd spend a lot of time fixing things. So if you were to look at like a % complete, you might be at 80% for a while because all of a sudden you found a lot of things that are broken. And then your customers are like, well, why aren't you making progress? Why aren't we seeing anything? How far are you really done? Right? Yeah. And so you start to lose like that trust and the transparency, and you start to question where you're at. And all along, you weren't getting feedback that you could have gotten that would have prevented some of those
along
issues
the way.
in the end. Yeah. So, so taking those concepts of waterfall and just kind of slicing them up. So you're doing just a little bit of design, a little bit of code, a little bit of test, and you're getting feedback quickly in a fast feedback cycle, like 2 weeks. So what that does is, you're integrating small bits of the system versus a big batch of the system. So when an error does occur, it's happening in a small piece that's much easier to fix. And if your customer or users are giving you feedback, and they say, well, you know what, we actually would prefer this instead of this, you can pivot quickly and make that change and move on. Versus, that big batch, there might be a whole lot of things that they might want to fix, a whole lot of errors, and then to peel back that onion and dissect it all becomes a bigger challenge and a more of a cost to them than it would have been if they found it sooner.
Like a time cost, right?
Time, money,
Your relationship.
Right. And a lot of things too, and this is a big one, that a perception is because we think, like, from a waterfall perspective, that we're designing everything up front and that we know everything, and because of that we have this plan, we can go off and do things. It's perceived that we're driving risk out at that point, but actually we're building risk in because we're not reflecting. There's no reflective throughout. So with Agile, you're in a better position to drive risk out of your plans, out of your software, out of dependency management, a whole gamut of things. So those are just a couple of things that are big compares between the two.
Now, does this also go towards within like coworkers as well, and like having mentors and being like junior versus senior rather than just with the company and like the business?
Absolutely. So with Agile, there's a big push for the culture, the mindset shift. Whereas, like, if my niche is in user interface design and the person on my team sitting next to me's niche is in test, the idea is that that's great. We all bring a strength to the table, like an athletic team, right? Everybody's got certain skills that they bring that the whole team can capitalize on, but you have to build that into your software team too. So cross-functionality is key. So I have to share my skills with the tester, and the tester has to share their skills with me, so that we can become what we call T-shaped. So we maintain our depth in a certain area, but we grow breadth, and that we can help each other. Otherwise, you're still kind of operating in your own individual silos, and you're not really building this high-performing team function or cross-functionality that an Agile team really kind of get momentum from.
Oh, that's awesome. Is there any other key things that students should know about Agile?
There's tons.
We should do like a mini series of like Agile by Kim Davis, teaching everybody.
I mean, there's a lot of great things that it brings to the table. I'll say that the most important thing is it really comes down to cultural aspects. I know as software developers, we often want to kind of put our heads down and just code and get things done. But if you're not incorporating what your team brings to the table, we're often missing perspective or ideas or thoughts. And so, again, going back to the athletic team analogy, there's no I in team, right? You're stronger as a unit than you are as an individual, and you have to capitalize on all those strengths that your team has. So, like, Agile teams are truly the heart of all the value that an organization delivers. If you think about an engine, they're like the pistons in the engine, right? Everything around it too, all the supporting functions have to operate in such a manner too, which is why like things like DevOps come into play, where it's like shared responsibility. Even though I'm not a software developer, I still share some responsibility in how things get delivered. So that's why like there's this whole big movement. So we started with things like Scrum, and now we're talking about business agility, and that's all the cogs kind of working together to create an agile organization, basically. So it's really growing in leaps and bounds in terms of where you can apply agility for your company, your enterprise, right? And that's a big focus of mine right now. So again, to your question, I think a big important piece is just, it's like systems thinking. How do we operate as a system?
Yeah.
And that's key. Once you get to that point, like you get into this groove, you're moving because you're just kind of gelling with each other. And that's why, like, the basics of Scrum will really tell you about how Agile teams are so important to the whole operation.
It's a team, right? You're literally building a team foundation.
Right. There's a model by somebody named Tucker, and it is your teams go through forming, storming, norming, and performing. So
I like
the
that.
goal of a Scrum Master is to get a team through that. They want to be rock star performing teams. So, they're working on creating that environment and culture for that team to thrive in. So you got to get it through that storming phase.
So I think that a lot of people who go into the CS major think that, like you said, are going to be sitting in front of a computer coding all day, right? They're going to be software developers. There are different sectors inside of the CS department, right? And you switched over from doing software development to being a leader, right? And I think maybe it's important for everyone to know that it's not so like tunnel vision where it's like, this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Like I see, like when I met Kim, we were in like a seminar, and you could see how excited she was to talk about it. Like, it's not just those things that you think you're going to go do for the rest of your life. I think it's important for everyone to know that there's different things, and maybe you could talk about your transition. And
yes, absolutely. I mean, I knew by the time I was a sophomore at Rowan in computer science that I was going to start as a developer, but I wasn't going to be a developer forever.
Yeah.
I had many conversations with my advisors at the time on what I should do, right? Should I change majors if I already know this, or should I just let it open up doors? And so I let it open up doors, and I had the plans of getting my MBA afterwards just for diversification anyway. And so when I got my job, we were part of Computer Sciences Corporation at the time, and we divested and got bought by ASRC Federal. I networked with my coworkers, and I figured out, just by kind of self-reflection on what my strengths were and what my weaknesses were continually, it just allowed me to kind of carve out or create my next open door, right? So I think that's important. A lot of people want to come out with a plan, like, oh, in 10 years, I'm going to do this, right? But you have to let it evolve, because you have to gain from your experiences.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that self-reflection built into just what you do, like every year, I'd be like, okay, and this year I accomplished this, and I still have these gaps. Well, I need to take those gaps and turn them into strengths. Yeah. And that's what I would do all the time. And so, that's people are like, oh, why have you been with this company for so long? I was like, well, two reasons. The first reason is this company the culture here is great. It's like a family-oriented culture. So it works. I love the people. You love the people you work with, you want to stay there. But the bigger thing is I've been able to reinvent myself all this time. So I haven't become complacent, or I don't feel like. Go ahead.
No, and the company let you be yourself, right, and evolve and everything, which is great.
I think if you prove yourself and you show that you've got ideas and you bring solutions to the table, they'll support you in your career path. And as long as you have an open conversation about it, I've always been supported with the things that I've wanted to be able to do as I figure them out. Do I know what I want to do next? Not yet, but I know I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's great. So I think it's important for everyone to be familiar with Agile, because that's probably what they're going to go into. Or if they wanted to go into project management, like that's also good too. And whatever any student is comfortable or has a passion to kind of go work towards that, right? But have an open mind.
Yes, yeah, and do what makes you happy. That's important too.
So I think that everyone should go look up Agile and be a little bit more familiar before you go into your interviews.
Yeah, there's a nonprofit organization called Women in Agile, and anybody can join it. It's not, it's just women promoting women, but it's open to men as well. I run the Philadelphia chapter, so you can look for it on LinkedIn, and there's a Meetup group. So that's an easy way to network with people in industry.
Yeah.
When we're proud to, do things in person again, we do have events inside of Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware. That's our tri-state focus area. But we get together and we talk about topics, or we'll do networking. So it's another way to kind of network with industry people that are like-minded. And then, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn or send me an email if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help out.
I will provide Kim's information at the bottom of this. Thank you so much for all of your insight and guidance today.
Absolutely, anytime.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.